for decades and decades. And so you can participate in that. It's an easy way for you to get involved. If you grab one of these and you don't know who it is, the guy over here in the burnt orange shirt that was just wrecking it on the drums over there, Andrew, he's our children's minister, so he can tell you who they are, okay? Be a great time to get to know some more people. Okay, that's the plug. So just be praying for them. We also need some more waters. So if you want to help out with that, you can just bring some waters up to the office. As long as you have them here by Wednesday morning, we'll be good to go, and they'll take those. Okay, Proverbs, a general principle. A general principle, when generally applied, will lead to a general result. Not necessarily a promise, not a guarantee. If you buy two now for $19.99, a lifetime guarantee. It's not an infomercial. What it is like if you will aim your life in this direction, if you will follow after the Lord's commands and His teaching, if you will walk with Him and what He says is the path to go, in general, that's going to get you on the right path. And in general, it's going to keep you from a lot of foolishness and nonsense. But just like we referenced last Sunday, which feels like a month ago, by the way. Anybody else feeling that? Like last Sunday, July 4th was like 2 weeks ago. Also known as like Thursday, whatever. It's crazy. So the idea is that in the Proverbs, in the book of Proverbs, there's kind of three categories that the Lord uses: the wise, the foolish, and the evil. And so where the Lord can transform the evil heart, it is possible, but this is the real danger zone on the evil side. But then all of humanity, we have such a propensity towards foolishness. Like we lean toward it. And so what the Lord wants to do is say, hey, right now you might be ignorant of some truth. I want to teach you truth. You might not know how to apply this. I want to give you experience. I want to lead you in the right direction so that you don't make foolish decisions, but that you walk with me and you make wise decisions. And yesterday's wisdom and yesterday's good decision, it mattered for yesterday, and we need to take it with us to today because we need to make wise decisions today so that we can have wise choices and we can impact other people in a wise way. We can talk about years ago that one good decision we made and all of the really good things that happened because of it. In my life, her name is Kristen. Okay? And so there was a wise decision on my behalf. I was like, I need to get to know that girl. And she wasn't against it, so it worked out great. 24 years of marriage plus a couple of other times just hanging out. So it's so far so good. But there's wisdom that we need for each new day. And so as we look at Proverbs 3, I'm going to read verses 1 through 8, and then we'll focus in on verses 7 and 8 this morning. It's a father's instructions to a son. My son, don't forget my teaching, but let your heart keep my commands, for they will bring you many days, a full life, and well-being. Never let loyalty and faithfulness leave you. Tie them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Then you will find favor and high regard with God and people. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not rely on your own understanding. In all your ways know Him, and He will make your paths straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. This will be healing for your body and strengthening for your bones. So we'll focus on 7 and 8. Don't be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil, and this will be healing for your body and strengthening for your bones. The first point I want to point out this morning is self-evaluation is limited. Self-evaluation is limited. If you go to any big bookstore, you're going to go and there's going to be a whole section, and it's called self-help. Don't act like you haven't seen it. I know you've been in there. Okay, it's fine. Okay. The religious section of Bibles is like 4 shelves, and then self-help is billions of dollars of an industry. Yeah. So If you haven't caught on yet, they keep writing new self-help books. Oops. Well, I tried it, but now I'm going to read this one and it's going to help. So self-help, self-evaluation is always limited. It can only do so much because I can sit by myself and I can rationalize and justify and think through why this is a wonderful purchase, why this is a great idea. And then I'll talk to someone, anyone, and then they're fuddy-duds and they think the idea is bad, and then I'm mad. Ever happened to you? Yeah, it has, right? Yeah, some of you were like, it happened this morning. Yeah. If we're not careful, we will isolate. We will think through what we think through best, and we'll make decisions, and the next thing you know, we're like, man, I didn't get good, wise counsel. I didn't ask the Lord about it. I didn't check the scriptures about this. How did I get myself into such a foolish mess? In self-evaluation, ask most men, how are you? I'm fine. How are you doing physically? I'm fine. Ask their wives. He can't breathe. He can't walk. He can't do this. He grunts all the time. He used to be able to do this. I'm telling you, he's got problems. Yeah. Oh, really? When did you become a doctor? I have WebMD. He has all of the signs of all of the terrible things. Somewhere along the way, maybe the spouse evaluation and the self-evaluation aren't entirely accurate. And what do? We go to a doctor, and the doctor tells us, here's the 7 things you really need to address right now. And what do? I'm getting a second opinion. Because I love copays, waiting on an appointment, and surely this other doctor's going to tell me something different because I'm fine. I know I'm still in my prime. There's nothing wrong with me. I feel great. Ow. What was that? Yeah. So self-evaluation's not great. And sometimes we even get a doctor's evaluation. We do this all the time. And so what the scriptures teach is that self-examination and self-evaluation is really limited, so we need to be careful with it. We need to be an expert on ourselves. We need to be an expert on ourselves. But the problem is, no one probably lies to us or confuses us more than we do. So much that's going on. Have you ever been exhausted just from having a mental conversation with yourself? Listen, I know some of you well enough, I'm telling you, you've been tired for years, right? It's just exhausting. You're like, what did you do today? I don't know. I'm exhausted. There's no resolution. I'm more confused than when I started. I'm angry. I'm irritable. Not even coffee is helping. It's like, just put up a sign, caution. It's not you, it's me. Yeah, I see several falling under conviction. Yeah, amen. It's exhausting, isn't it? Yeah. Jerison, you need to stop. You're going to get yourself in extra trouble. Hold him accountable, people. Tell him to let it go. Yeah. To be fair, Betsy's like, that's me. Jerison texted me about some stuff this week, so I was just trying to help him out. No. Grace, I'm kidding. Okay. So here's the reality. Every human being does this. We're wrestling through it. And so even what the scriptures are teaching is hey, that has its limits. We need better help than just ourselves. And even from our friends and even from the internets and all that stuff, we need more help. And the Lord promises to offer it to us. So it says, don't be wise in your own eyes. So we have to be careful in how we're evaluating ourselves in other situations and not to just think we've got it figured out. Proverbs 26:12. Do you see a person who is wise in his own eyes? There is more hope for a fool than for him. Whew. That's tough. That's a tough word. It's if you see somebody who is arrogant, they're consumed with themselves. No one can talk to them. They're unreasonable. The Proverbs says that it's better to be a fool than to be that person. Like that's tough. That's a tough little badge to wear. So we have to be careful of this. Romans 12:16, listen to what it says. Live in harmony with one another. That sounds great, doesn't it? I mean, just get 3 people in the car and try to decide where to go to lunch. Like even that, like you don't believe in miracles? Like when families leave church after being here for a few hours to go eat and then everybody's still talking about Jesus at lunch? I mean, that's miraculous. You can do it. But it says live in harmony with one another. And that's not an easy task. But these little pieces that are next in this verse are important. Do not be proud. Do not be proud. Instead, associate with the humble. Do not be wise in your own estimation. I think a good rule is if you always feel like you're the smartest person in the room, that's a lonely place to be. Always the smartest. Always the one with the right answer. Always the hero. Always the savior. Always the one that has to have the last word, because your word is not only last, it is greatest. And there are certainly times to speak up and to lead and to share, but as our character and as we're thinking about ourselves, is like, is that who I am? What do I bring into the room? But to be humble, to live in harmony, to not be proud, not to be wise in your own estimation. I think wise people ask really good questions rather than always making definitive statements. To be curious. When somebody tells you something that you disagree with, I think a wise person says, talk to me about how you got there. How did you come to that conclusion? I mean, other things, it's just obvious. You're like, that's not accurate. This is what's accurate, okay, when something's a lie. But I think there's wisdom in curiosity and listening and trying to understand situations. But don't be wise in your own estimation. Proverbs 2:6, for the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding. How do you become a wiser person? Where does wisdom come from according to the Proverbs? Wisdom comes from the Lord. And as the Lord gives wisdom to his people, the Lord's wisdom can come to us through other people. But we understand that the source of that wisdom is the Lord. So that's why we always want to take the scriptures when we're trying to navigate through something. And we go, man, what does God say about this? What is he teaching about this? How do I take this situation I'm in and how do I navigate through it wisely? And if you have godly friends who are walking in the Lord's wisdom, they will be able to share with you godly wisdom. They will have a perspective. They might not have the whole puzzle, but they might have an important piece. This is why we need godly friends in our lives. You have others that are spiritual mentors. You're going to need that, but you're going to need time in the Word. And it's just little by little that we gain the wisdom, and it ultimately comes from the Lord. So we can't make wise decisions by leaving the Lord out of our lives, because he is the source of that wisdom. We are not the ultimate source of wisdom. We've all learned things. We all have experiences. We can all share knowledge. There are things that we can talk to people about and help them. So don't shortchange yourself there. But ultimately, the best wisdom we can offer comes from the Lord to us, and then it goes out from us. And sometimes wisdom means not saying a word and turning it into a prayer. And sometimes wisdom is saying, no, it is time to talk about this right now. You need spiritual discernment to navigate through those situations. At a commentary this week, I read this. We are to be humble in our obedience. Wise in your own eyes denotes not merely proud of your own wisdom, but self-sufficient in it and therefore not feeling the need to refer things to God. So to be self-sufficient, I'm not even going to check with God. Like, I've got this. That would be a foolish way to go. And we are all guilty of it at some level. And we need to be aware that to not walk in wisdom in our own eyes, that our self-evaluation is limited, we are not self-sufficient, we are very dependent. And the Lord is willing to help us. And we need to take and refer those things to the Lord. That's like that phrase that gets used, and we mean it well, but we're like, well, now all we can do is pray. That means we've tried everything we could try, and I guess now we'll trust the Lord. We'll see what he can do with it. Creator of all things. Ugh. Send him an email, I guess. Shoot him a text. Maybe he's got something. We don't mean that, do we? What we do mean is we don't have what it takes to do anything different. We got to trust the Lord. And we should start there, navigate through the situation, and end there. So when we mean, let's just clarify that. Like, we're trusting the Lord at the very beginning of this. We're trusting him in the midst of it, and we're going to trust him that he'll see us through it, no matter what. We're going to continue to lean on his wisdom. Second thing is this. Proper fear of the Lord is paired with turning away from evil. Proper fear of the Lord is paired with turning away from evil. These things really work best together. And we're going to talk about this idea of fear and the fear of the Lord for a few minutes. Proverbs 1:7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and discipline. So right there at the beginning of Proverbs, it says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, and the fool doesn't want wisdom and doesn't want discipline. So if we don't want to be foolish, what's it going to require? We're going to need the Lord's wisdom, and we're going to need discipline. I just want things to be easier. Most of the time, that if you really get down to the core of my own being, I just want it to be easier. Just make it easier. We're comfortable. Like, this doesn't have to be this complicated. It doesn't have to be this hard. Can we control, alt, delete hurricanes, period? That would just make things a lot easier. And most of us, we do have a tendency, that's really down in the deep core of us, we just want it to be easier. Like, if you're a parent of little ones, you just want them to go play in their room and be quiet for a little while. You just want to lay there and just have things to be quiet. All of the things that you can think of, we have to be careful that we're not just saying, I just want to hit the easy button, but we want the Lord's wisdom, which requires discipline and habits. Proverbs 9:10, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. If we don't want to get out of the foolish category, we want to walk in wisdom, we've got to fear the Lord, which we're about to talk about, and then we have got to walk in that day by day, a little bit more each and every day. So let's talk about the difference between fear, terror, and reverence. So the first one right here, there's a little character that some of you will know. His name is Fear. And he's from the movie Inside Out. The idea that this young girl has the seed of emotions in her, and they each become a little character, and one of them is fear, and fear is always fearful. And fear realizes that, hey, sometimes there is a proper fear, a healthy fear, and sometimes there is an anxious worry that isn't okay. So I've got to learn how to deal with the emotion of fear. So let me walk you through some little definitions here. Fear, general feeling of apprehension or unease. Some of you may have felt that today just going to church. Like, you're just a little fearful of, like, hey, I don't know these people. What's going to happen? Is the pastor going to be weird? How weird is he going to be? Is this as weird as he gets? Yeah. It can range from mild to intense. If I told you right now, hey, I just got a report that the hurricane turned again, and he's coming right for us. A little bit of fear. I don't have that report. Don't go that way. Fear would kick back up, often in response to a specific threat or danger. Okay? So it's a general feeling of apprehension. You're uneasy. You might be a student nervous before taking an important test. You might be someone encountering a snake on a hike. You might be someone at Padre Island just trying to enjoy the beach. Cool. I used to think jellyfish were the worst thing that could happen to you at the beach. Then I went to the beach. Then I thought, I think other humans might be the worst thing that can happen to you at the beach. And then jellyfish, and then now sharks just trying to enjoy the 4th of July. And wow, like scary, right? That can create fear. That is a rational fear. Someone at my house has a little bit of an irrational fear of sharks. It'll make them nervous even if they're in their own bedroom. Okay? Like, ooh, no, not doing this. But fear, we understand this. You might be fearful of potential layoffs at work, the changing of situations in your life. But fear, there's a healthy fear, there's an unhealthy fear, there's a realistic, there's unrealistic, and we all have to navigate through those things. Because what I'm afraid of, you might not be. And what you're afraid of, I might not be. And together we might be able to wisely navigate through what is a healthy fear and what is anxiety and worry and dread. The next thing is not just fear, but the idea of terror. And there's a movie, and there's a little clip from it. I'm not going to show it to you. But essentially, it's a moment of terror. And there's all kinds of movies that are full of what our kids call jump scares. Just a jump scare, like where you're just sitting there